WATD presents John Paul, the Car Doctor. All things automotive. Have questions? Call or text 781-837-4900. Now, here's John Paul, the Car Doctor.
And good Sunday morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Car Doctor program on award-winning 95.9 WATD on this Easter Sunday. Yes, we're live on Easter Sunday. We're live every time. I don't think we've ever not been live. I don't like to... It's either I'm going to be here or I'm not. That's all there is to it. So I'm here today, and if you would like to join us, our phone number is 781-837-4900. We have no guests for today, so we will be talking to you, and we have a bunch of stuff to talk about, a car review, a tool review, and this is the time of the year that I always used to go to the New York Auto Show. And the New York Auto Show was always one of those things that I enjoyed going to. Some people used to go, there was always, back in the old days, there was a lot of different events that went along with the auto show. So you would go to the show, but if you were on the right list, which I wasn't always, you would get invited to different things. So you would be invited to, Chrysler would do something, or Nissan would do something, or, I saw some great entertainment because, Ford invited me to something and there was some great entertainment, but also it was about the cars. Subaru, I know, did something that was pretty interesting. And that's where you got to chit-chat with some of the people that you've met over the years. And I actually kind of miss that because a lot of those people have retired now, but some of those people are still around. And some of them I only know from here, from the radio, like John Vincent and Alex Quanton from U.S. News. They had a pretty good rundown of the things they liked at the auto show. So I'm just going to kind of go over those. For 2027, Chrysler brought out their kind of refreshed Chrysler Pacifica minivan. And that is the only vehicle Chrysler offers right now, which is sort of puzzling, I guess. In fact, someone wrote to me just recently that they've always owned Chrysler vehicles, and they wondered what's going on with Chrysler. Will they survive? I think they will. I think it's too iconic a name. If I was running Chrysler, which good thing I'm not, I think I'd try to make Chrysler like a Lexus or an Acura or something. The old days where people drove Chryslers and went, it's a Chrysler. It's not a Plymouth or a Dodge. I try to make them unique and different and luxurious. What do they have to say here? The logo fits the vans, aggressively restyled. It's the Pacifica minivan. It says line up to sport a new illuminated wing badge. I kind of remember when Plymouth or Chrysler wasn't doing well. And let's face it, they haven't done well off and on in their history. But the PT Cruiser was like one of their hits, sort of. And the next year, they really didn't have anything to say, so they made a PT Cruiser convertible. And that was their big thing to show at the auto show. Wasn't all that hard to change. Cut the roof off, make it two doors, put a fake top on it. All of a sudden, it was a new model. But the budget-friendly Voyager has been rebranded as a Pacifica in LX trim for those seeking more luxury. There's a Pinnacle that debuts a blue agave Napa leather interior. Sounds nice, I guess. But it competes with the Odyssey and the Sienna. Pacifica remains the hauling king thanks to its stow-and-go seats, which fit nicely in the floor. That is an interesting concept because the second row seats actually fold up and drop into a compartment in the floor. The problem is most people use the compartment for storage of other stuff. So when you want to go use it, you got to take all your other stuff out so you can store the seats. But and it's they killed the plug-in hybrid, which I kind of like that. In fact, that actually won an award with the New England Motor Press. Kind of the same thing out of Ford. For 2027, Ford showed the 30th anniversary package of the Expedition. The full-size SUV has been on the market for 30 years, and to celebrate The Detroit automaker is offering a 30th anniversary appearance package, which will be the only version of the Expedition available with the Ford Blue Ember metallic paint, so specialty kind of thing. The color was exclusive to the Mustang Dark Horse. The contrasting paint, large 22-inch wheels. 22-inch wheels. We're seeing those all over the place. The Expedition is currently the top-rated model of their SUV ranks, if you remember last week's interview. So they like it a lot. Genesis, which, a few years ago, nobody knew what a Genesis was. In fact, the Genesis was a submodel of Hyundai. But now it stands out on its own as a premium brand. Following the introduction of the G70 Prestige graphite trim at the Los Angeles Auto Show in November, Genesis is applying the same treatment to its best-selling GV70 compact crossover, meant to give the SUV a sportier personality. Personality or sporty-ish? Kind of wonder. But it holds its top spot. Again, it's considered by U.S. News one of the best. They had a really good-looking concept, something called the Genesis G90 Wingback. I don't know if it'll ever make it here, but it is sort of a sleek wagon, and I somehow believe that wagon's going to make a comeback. I think people are getting a little tired of SUVs you have to jump up into. Now, certainly compact SUVs are easier to get into, lower to the ground, don't offer the same space. People want the bigger vehicle for more stuff, but all of a sudden they become more of a challenge to get in and out of. So the Genesis may be there. And in Europe, wagons do pretty well. Hyundai also had a concept there called the Boulder. It is a body-on-frame SUV. It's the off-road SUV concept, previews both a production SUV and a mid-size pickup. Now, I've been saying I'm trying to think what year it was, 2005, when Kia came out with the Sorento, which was a body-on-frame vehicle, and I said that would make a pickup truck. And the folks from Kia at the time said, well, it's kind of a thinking. But it's interesting to see that now that Hyundai may be building what I would categorize as a mid-size pickup. 2030 is a long ways away. It's 4 years away, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. The concept was really interesting. It had 36-inch mud tires on it, interior design for adventure, full power retractable rear window, kind of like the 4Runner to add ventilation, kind of, except if you've ever driven in a car with a retractable rear window, the carbon monoxide exhaust comes in the rear window as you're driving down the road. But on the other hand, if you're just going slow and you have the windows open, it is kind of nice to have all the windows open. And also the idea of a retractable window makes it easy to load longer things in there. That's one of the things I miss about it. Was the Sorento that I owned. You could flip up the rear glass, which most cars don't have that anymore, or most SUVs don't have that. But whether it was by accident or on purpose, the edge of the rear hatch window was exactly even with the top of the dash. So if you went to Home Depot or Lowe's and got a 12-foot long 2x-something, you could set it up on the dash and then run it all the way back with the rear window open, and you didn't have to worry about it falling out, which was kind of nice. So be interesting to see what happens. What's to say here? Well, currently a concept, the Boulder signals Hyundai's intent to graduate from a suburban runabout crossovers to competing with off-road icons like the Bronco and the Wrangler. Infiniti showed the new QX65. Luxury SUV buyers can't seem to get enough of crossovers that look like coupes. This one looks like a coupe. So does that make it like a station wagon? I don't know. I don't actually like this four-door coupe concept. To me, A coupe is always going to have two doors. Like Mustangs are always going to have two doors. The Mustang Mach-E, like it a lot. I don't like calling it a Mustang. Call me old-fashioned. But the new QX65 has a sloped roofline, athletic styling, midsize SUV that rivals the, I think, Audi Q8 maybe, BMW X6, the Mercedes, whatever they call their one that's like that. Exterior features a textured grille meant to evoke Japanese bamboo and a metallic accent line running down the sides. Doesn't look like bamboo to me, but that's what they say here. Kia EV3, taking its cues from its flagship EV9, putting its best bits into a package that fits into tight spots and tight budgets. The all-new EV3 is a successor to the totally fine but not particularly exciting Nero EV. The electric compact crossover is expected to have 320 miles of range, which is quite a bit more than like the Nissan Leaf or Leaf would be a good comparison. It doesn't have that. But we're starting to see more and more EVs that have that 300-mile range, which is sort of that magic number that people feel comfortable with. Tech-forward cabin boasts a 30-inch display. Do you really need a 30-inch display? The one I really like, and I don't know if this will ever show up, but on the floor of the show, and I saw this picture pop up a couple times, is something showed by Kia called a PV5 electric van, and it was mocked up as a New York taxi cab. Nissan did this years ago with their little mini van. They mocked it up as a taxi cab, and then they put it in a press fleet, which was kind of interesting. You know, driving around in basically a taxi cab for a week was kind of fun. It also had some weird features in it, like a PA system. Not really a PA system. I guess you could call it a communication system between you and the passengers in the back seat. It did have the plexiglass shield between the front and rear seats, just like a taxi cab would. It was kind of interesting to drive, but it'll be interesting to see what this is. The PV5 is currently available in a cargo and 5-seat passenger vans in other parts of the world, where it's earned multiple awards for space and versatility. It's not unlike the VW ID Buzz, though Volkswagen's putting that on hold because no one's buying it because, well, it's $85,000 and it has a pretty small range. So, compared to things we're seeing today, we'll have to wait and see. The Kia also showed the new Seltos, the 2027 Seltos. Are you seeing kind of a pattern here where, it used to be the auto show was Chevy and Ford and Chrysler and a few imports and Jaguar and Mercedes, and where are all those vehicles? Well, they're not at the auto shows. I'm sure GM was, but the redesigned Seltos has a little bit more chunkier look. It's kind of boxy looking. It'll be a hybrid version for the first time. So sort of the size of Mazda CX-30, where you won't find a hybrid. Also, right now, the Hyundai Kona, you won't find a hybrid. I'm willing to bet there will be one. Alongside two 4-cylinder engines, including a Turbo 4, so probably up over 240 horsepower would be my guess. It looks pretty good. A cool feature, this is according to the folks from U.S. News and World Report, the touchscreen infotainment system supports Netflix and YouTube streaming while parked, which I'm sure someone will figure out how to jailbreak that and make it so you can watch movies while you drive, which is wrong, and we'll get into distracted driving in a bit. 2027 Subaru Forester Wilderness Hybrid, which Craig Fitzgerald, who I've known for 30-some-odd years, described it as Subaru's way to print money. Subaru is offering a solution to one of the complaints often faced by more rugged wilderness models. They aren't what you'd call easy on gas. Subaru estimates the Forester Wilderness Hybrid will get 25% better gas mileage than the Forester Wilderness, which is 26 combined, and it would put it in line with the standard Forester, which is 29. Of course, the Forester Hybrid will be more efficient, but it lacks the increased ground clearance, which I think is only half an inch. Subaru vehicles all have like 8.5 inches of ground clearance. or most of them in the Outback versions do. All-terrain tires, upgraded suspension, dynamic traction management. People do take Subarus off-road. They take them to the beach a lot because they're not heavy. The new model is nearly indistinguishable from the Forester Wilderness with identical cabin furnishings. Features include synthetic leather upholstery, Harman Kardon audio system. Then there is the Subaru Getaway, which is kind of a weird name for a vehicle. The Getaway is more about escaping daily life and taking a family vacation. It's an electric SUV with 3 rows that's a corporate cousin to the Toyota Highlander, which I guess will also be electric. It also competes with its rivals, the Ioniq 9 and the Kia EV9. Subaru says it'll have more than 300 miles of range. It'll have the North American charging standard charging port, which is actually the Tesla style charging port, which someone was supposed to send me, and I haven't seen it. It's actually longer than Subaru's 3-row SUV, the Ascent, which doesn't seem to sell that well. And giving its generous passenger and cargo space, will come equipped with top-tier tech, including a 14-inch touchscreen and a list of driver assistant features. You'll probably see that by the end of the year. The long-awaited design change of the Volkswagen Atlas was shown at the auto show, fully redesigned, sleeker, more upscale looking. A couple things the current Atlas on expected to change: 3-row seats. A lot of people like the Atlas because of it. You should see it next year. And other things at the auto show, some classic cars. I guess there's some 1935 Arbor Speedster, a 62 Fiat 500D. You know how small those cars are once you see them. So that's kind of the highlights that I've seen from the auto show. We talked about Nissan, and we've talked about Nissan and Infiniti a fair amount. We've done a fair amount of car reviews about it. And this one is the Nissan Armada. So if you're looking for a full-size SUV that's big, bold, built for the long haul, the 2026 Nissan Armada may already be on your shopping list, but if it isn't, it probably should be. It's Nissan's largest SUV, and it got a redesign about a year ago. I remember driving it about a year ago. And for 2026, it adds more capability, more technology. It even has a performance version. I don't know how much you want to spice up a family hauler, but under the hood, the Armada now uses Nissan's twin-turbo V6, replacing the old V8. You're looking at 525 horsepower and 425 horsepower and 516 foot-pounds of torque. It's got a real transmission, a 9-speed automatic. 400 horsepower is a lot. It's hard to distinguish this between the Infiniti QX80, though, other than they somehow managed to crank up a little bit more horsepower in the Infiniti, but it's basically the same. Fuel economy remains about what you'd expect for a full-size SUV, 15 to 20 miles per gallon, depending on trim level. If you go with the Pro 4X, which is what we drove, or the four-wheel drive, you lose a mile or so, but you gain some pretty serious off-road capability. What's it say here? EPA says 16 miles per gallon overall, 15 to 18, 15 city, 18 highway. If you want the performance trim, it kicks it up to 460 horsepower, so 10 more, I believe, than the Infiniti. Must be all software changes, I would think. The one thing the Armada has, and has always had going for it and continues, you get serious towing capacity, 8,500 pounds of towing capacity, right on par with other traditional truck-based SUVs or things like full-size pickup trucks. 8,500 pounds is a lot of towing capacity. That is a really big boat, really big camping trailer, horse trailer, maybe double horse trailer. So whether you're pulling a camper, a boat, pair of snowmobiles, you aren't even going to notice. Inside, the Armada remains spacious and comfortable. I had 4 people in it. They were all comfortable. They liked everything about the back seats. with all the controls and everything. Fit and finish are solid, good visibility. I like the infotainment setup. Some people considered it dated. I kind of liked it. Higher trim levels get the nice leather interior, which this one had. And the, Jesse, what is it? The Klipsch, how did we pronounce this last time? Klipsch sound system?
I don't remember.
Oh, come on. You're the audio guy.
How do we spell it?
I don't know. Klipsch.
I think it was just Klipsch.
Yeah.
But,
which you said is a premium audio system.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
I know so much less about it than I know about it today.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's just Klipsch.
All right. Okay. Anyway, moving on. A long list of safety and driver assistance features like adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assistant, which I shut off because I hate it. Traffic sign recognition, which reminds you of, which is, I guess, you're driving along, speed limit's 55 on a 2-lane busy road, and all of a sudden it drops to 30, so the display goes, hey, 30 miles an hour, which you just saw the sign, so the car has to remind you of that. Weird. Cargo space is pretty generous. With all the seats up, you get 20.4 cubic feet, according to what I read, and over almost 100 cubic feet with all the seats folded. Our model had the power folding seats, which is kind of nice. You can do it from the back. So, like, I went and got a couple pieces of wood the other day, and I could push a button and fold the rear seat down. Nice and easy. I didn't have to get inside and try to figure it out. So, again, when you buy a premium model with premium accessories, you get stuff like that. On the road, it drives good, but it also drives big. It feels big. I like mid-sized vehicles. Even though I'm a big person, I like mid-sized vehicles. I find them more comfortable to drive. In fact, I was just talking to someone the other day that was looking at a full-size GMC pickup, I think, and he said, it's too big compared to his current pickup. It just seems too big. So, vehicles getting big, and some big vehicles drive small. Some big vehicles drive big. This, to me, drives big. I thought the handling was good. Ride was good. Comfortable enough. I didn't go off-road with it because I rarely ever do that. I thought the brakes felt good. All around, pretty easy to drive. Is it perfect? The third row can get a little bit tight. Cargo space, if you're using all 3 rows, 20 cubic feet, not bad. I mean, if you picked up, let's see. So I'm driving to the airport. I pick up 5 other people. And I try to cram all their luggage in that 20 cubic feet of space. It's a little on the tight side. I don't know that you could put 5 roller bags in the back. Maybe, but I don't think so. I think it'd be pretty tight. But can you put 6 people in it? Yeah, you can. Can you put 7? I think so. But anyway, so a little bit tight. The new V6 is great. But some people are going to say, I wish I had a V8. But you don't get it, so you got to get over it. 2026 Armada is a well-rounded, comfortable, confident SUV, and I think it holds its own in a pretty competitive segment. My big question is, and now this one is a top of the line, like I said, it's the Pro 4X intelligent 4-wheel drive system, pretty much everything in it. It had a retail price of $81,675, and that included destination charge. Well, the Infiniti QX80, I think, was $103,000. I didn't see $20,000 worth of difference between those two vehicles. Now, yes, you're getting a premium nameplate, maybe slightly nicer materials. I don't know. If it was my $20,000, I'd rather, if I could save $20,000 and get essentially, to me, what felt like the same vehicle, I would go with Nissan Armada, but I don't necessarily need a premium nameplate. Anyway, there you go. That's the 2026 Nissan Armada, big, capable, better than ever. If you're shopping for a full-size SUV, put it on your test drive list. We have all kinds of people on the phone waiting for us. So why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we will talk to Bob, Ken, and Joe, maybe? Give us a call at, nope, never mind, he disconnected, whoever that was. So we'll figure that out when we come back. You're listening to the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD.
Even car geeks and do-it-yourselfers rely on AAA to give them extra peace of mind on the road. AAA offers 24/7 roadside assistance, whether you're in your own vehicle, a friend's car, or even a rental. Combine that with great rates on insurance, hotel, gas, and buying savings, and discounts on 8,700 brands, and you're covered on and off the road. Get a special membership offer today at AAA.com/join. That's AAA.com/join.
Hey there, folks. It's Quinn Kelly reminding you to tune in Sunday night at 5 for the South Shore's first voice in sports talk radio, The Sports Exchange. Unmatched coverage of local high school action as well as a relatable voice on all things Boston Pro Sports. We've got you covered live at 5 every Sunday night. Have a question for our host, missed last week's show, or just want to share a great sports story? You can find us on Twitter at SE on WATD. But remember, mark your calendar, folks, and we'll see you Sunday night at 5 for the Sports Exchange on 95.9 WATD.
Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program. If you'd like to join us, 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. Let's talk to Joe. Joe, good morning.
Good morning to you.
And happy Easter.
Same to you. My question concerns this. They're going back to the ethanol.
Oh,
they
yeah.
want to increase it from 10 to 15%.
Only for 20 days.
Yeah, if you believe that. Anyway, my experience with it is you get worse mileage with it, lower performance, and I drove a lot of different vehicles. I used to work, my job was driving a lot on the road. Let me turn my radio off here. Anyway, my own experience is you get a couple of miles less per gallon, less performance. The automakers are totally against it. They said it's going to disrupt your fuel systems. It's caustic. It causes trouble all along the fuel line, from the tank, the lines, right to the engine. The other thing is it's I don't know what kind of additive you'd have to put in for your upper cylinder lubrication. With these modern cars, with the tolerances they got, you can't. The old thing would be like pour some Marvel Mystery Oil into the tank. And if you do that, you're going to end up clogging your injectors and everything else. I wonder if you consider doing a show sometime. Do some research on the pros and cons of this. Because
okay, here's what I read just recently about this.
Okay.
Most cars from 2000 up should be okay with the 15% ethanol. What ethanol is, and what we found out when they added 10% ethanol back, years ago, is ethanol is a really good cleaner. So if you have a bunch of junk floating around in your fuel tank, it's going to wash it out, and it's going to end up in places where it was never really designed to go, and do exactly what you said, clog up maybe fuel pumps, fuel injectors, things like that. Also, for people with boats, it melted fiberglass fuel tanks, which sounds almost impossible, but claims it did. Old fuel lines. Back years and years ago, I had a 65 Chevrolet Corvair, and I replaced every fuel line in it except the piece that went between the fuel fill tube and the tank. So after a couple of tanks of ethanol-based gasoline, all of a sudden I was filling it up one day and gas is leaking out on the ground. I looked down and there's this leak out of the fuel line, and I assume it was because that was it was probably 1965. It was old at the time, but it seemed like it chewed right through that old fuel line. So not good.
Yeah. Another thing is, I have my summer car. My summer ride is a '69 Corvette. It's an L88 clone.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a solid lifter, high compression 454 in it now.
Yep.
Bouncy 4-speed, M22,
Perfect.
411s in it. The car flies.
I guess.
It's a great street machine. tractable. You can drive it in traffic and stuff. But when I used to, I've had the car for 33 years. I put all these new parts in, new front to back, new suspension, everything else. Anyways, when I could get 94 Sunoco, I mean, that stuff was like race fuel. I could, from an easy roll, I could punch that thing and carry the front wheels 50 feet. No, with the 411s in the back. I ran it at the drags up New Hampshire there, and I got when they had a Corvette day, and the car ran low 12s and high teens.
Wow!
And that's a street machine. I drove it up and drove it back.
Yeah.
So the other thing, my reading and research over the years. I'm 80 years old now. I've been building cars since the 60s, and my experience was I read all the magazines. What I did was I changed all the gaskets. I got a Hawley 850 double pumper.
Yep.
And I use these nitrile gaskets. If you race a car that's made to run on alcohol, they're blue and they're made of a proprietary material. You can buy gloves made of that stuff. But I put that in, and I had no fuel problems whatsoever since.
It's funny. And this is another challenge we're going to be facing, I guess. Home heating oil is getting more and more biofuel, and biofuel can be made from corn.
I know what it is.
Whatever, yeah. And what the oil burner people are saying, you may have to go in and switch over to nitrile O-rings and stuff in your oil burner and oil tank because of the same reason.
Right. It's caustic.
Yeah.
That stuff is caustic.
Yep. And I agree with you that the more alcohol you put in, unless your car's been specifically tuned to run on alcohol, which most cars aren't, you are going to see a little bit of fuel economy drop. If you said to me you built your engine to run on ethanol, to run on 85% ethanol, you could probably get another 200 horsepower out of it. But you didn't. So, it has to go in the opposite direction. So I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. One of the major pipelines that brings fuel to the East Coast has already said they're not even going to bother. They're just going to run the same mix of fuel, even though they have this waiver to be able to run ethanol, higher percentage of ethanol. They're not even going to bother doing it.
It's a political thing. I don't want to go deep into politics.
Don't talk politics because I don't know anything about it.
They want to. The guys in the Midwest, in Nebraska, that grow corn, they don't use it. They use diesel to plow the fields to grow the corn. So that's their experience with it. One last thing is, years ago I was on the road in Eastern Mass here, and I went by a gas station and I needed fuel. So I was waiting for somebody at a town hall. I ran over there to refuel, and on the side of his garage, he had a vehicle, and it was a Darren. You ever heard of a Darren?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a two-seater. It's early 50s. I'd say anywhere from 51 to 53. I believe it might have had a Chrysler small block, a small Chrysler Hemian, like a 331 or something like that, and it had doors that. They weren't gull wing, but what they do is they slid into the rear fender, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was I think it was really a Kaiser Darren, maybe, as I recall.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was many years ago, and I just wondered. I don't think they're too plentiful because that's the only one I ever saw or heard of.
I've only seen them. I saw one at a museum and one at like a really fancy car show once, and it was. It may have been one of the first fiberglass cars.
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah. No, an interesting car. I will tell you, and this isn't. Again, I don't talk politics because I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about politics. But years ago. I went on vacation to this town called Puerto Morales in Mexico, and I was there, and there was a corn convention going on, and I was like, I speak very little Spanish. I can usually order beer and ask where the bathroom is, and that's probably the extent of my Spanish.
Well, you know the
And
important
but
words.
but I was standing there staring at some pop-up sign, trying to figure out what it all was, and I had pictures of corn and whatever. And this guy comes over, some kind of farmer person, and I said to him, I was looking at the sign. And he said, "Oh yeah, we harvest corn," and I said, "Oh, you're using corn for food, and you're using corn for this, and you're using corn for that." And I said, "It seems like you're using corn for everything but fuel." And he looks at me, and goes, "In Mexico, corn is so important to our culture. We would never use it to make fuel."
Right.
And I'm like, you're right.
I mean, corn is used. We grow. We feed ourselves with it. We feed all our animals, livestock, chickens,
Oh, yeah.
hens, turkeys, and stuff like that.
Yep.
So if we're going to make demands for that, that's going to increase the price overall.
Yep.
Make
No,
it
I agree
scarce.
with you. I agree with you. But
So,
again, we don't talk politics. So,
okay, yeah,
all right, good enough. All right, thanks, Joe.
yeah. Enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, have a good day. Happy Easter. All right,
Same to you.
take care.
Bye.
Told we do a tool review. We don't do that very often. But this is, and I'll say right up front, this is Harbor Freight sent me this because I guess I whined somewhere about it. But they sent me a Bauer 20-volt 3/8 drive cordless ratchet. I don't have I years ago, years and years ago, I bought a battery powered cordless ratchet, and it was terrible. Battery life was terrible. It wasn't good. This one uses a 20-volt battery. I don't know what that one was. Your battery wasn't even removable. I think it was made by Skill. But this uses the 20-volt battery platform that a lot of Bauer tools use. And I would say they're really trying to focus on serious DIYers, maybe professional grade in there somewhere. It's really designed for maintenance, that type of thing, equipment repair. Looks pretty reliable. It certainly speeds up assembly and disassembly. It is not designed, and I was reading some of the reviews on Harbor Freight's website, and on their website, people were complaining, oh, it doesn't have any torque. You don't want a ratchet with a lot of torque, because I had, back in the old days, I had air ratchets. And I had a 3/8 air ratchet, and if you were trying to loosen up some starter bolt, you had your hand up between an engine block and a frame, and that bolt didn't want to move, your hand got jammed between the ratchet because you couldn't control it. It made too much torque. I also had a little 3/8 drive snap-on air ratchet that I really liked it a lot because it was relatively quick. It had no real torque. It was meant to be a nut spinner. It was nothing more that you could take out spark plugs. I don't recommend it, but you could put in spark plugs with it because it didn't have a lot of torque. It wouldn't do any damage. It was small and compact and easy to use. I don't like a lot of torque in some place where you have to worry. So torque output is sufficient, but it's really meant for you crack the nut loose, and that's what you use it for. It won't replace an impact gun. It won't replace a long ratchet or a breaker bar. It's not made for that. It's made to, spin nuts and bolts back out. It has a nice variable speed trigger. It has decent control. It works pretty well as a full-size ratchet. Is it perfect? It's a little big and chunky. The handle size and balance feels pretty good. With the 20-volt battery, yeah, it's a little heavy, but if you're, laying under a car and you got to loosen up a bunch of stuff and you don't have room to put, a regular impact gun, it's nice for that. So the extra weight, I think, is certainly manageable. I have a battery, half-inch drive battery impact gun that has all kinds of torque. I think it's 1,000 foot-pounds of torque or something. And it works good. In fact, it loosened up a neighbor of mine was loosening up a big nut on the back of a flywheel, and he tried breaker bars and cheater bars and couldn't get it to move. Tried this, big impact on it. Did it weighs almost 10 pounds? It was heavy. This isn't bad. It's heavier than some of the compact 12-volt ones. But I thought the weight was manageable. It was not fatiguing. I thought it did good. The head profile is reasonably slim. I think it'll fit in, if you're doing, engine work, pulling transmission pans off, some suspension work, and you need to get under there. I think it works good. The forward reverse selector is positive. Trigger response, I think, is pretty good. It's not jumpy. I've seen some of the other ones that are pretty jumpy. This one isn't it. The real advantage, if you already have the Bauer 12-volt system, you're already on that platform. And this is always my recommendation with most battery tools. Buy something that you already have and you're already using. I have here mostly the Works stuff. Works makes, I have a Works weed eater. I have a Works leaf blower, which I use mostly for blowing sawdust out of my shed when I'm working in the shed doing stuff. I have a Works air compressor so I'm already on the Works battery platform. So if you're already on the Bauer battery platform, stay with it. It makes sense. You already have it. Chances are you're already going to have a battery that's fully charged and ready to go. This is my first Bauer battery tool. It will encourage me probably to maybe think about adding to it with something different. Maybe some other Bauer tool that maybe a 20-volt, something non-automotive, maybe a 20-volt finish nailer or something. It's always kind of, every once in a while I need to nail something. I have a little air compressor and a brad stapler handy. You do a lot less damage sometimes with an air nailer or air stapler than you do with a hammer and nail because you don't have to worry about splitting things. But to drag that out to tack 3 pieces of molding up, kind of annoying. Having a battery one's nice. So this may encourage me to go out and buy something like that. The standalone battery is also pretty reasonable compared to some of the premium van brands. So, for that reason, I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty solid feeling. For the price point, I think it was like $60. Is it as good as, can you compare it to a Snap-on or Milwaukee? Probably not, but it also doesn't feel disposable. I think it's good. I think with basic care, you're not going to throw it across a shop floor, although it probably could survive, but I don't recommend doing that with any tool. But I think it should hold up really well, especially do-it-yourself kind of stuff. In a shop, maybe it's a tool you don't go to all the time, but it's something when you need it, it's going to be handy. So I think if you're doing, basic repair and maintenance, it's going to be handy for that. Just taking stuff apart, even if you're doing it on a bench, it's going to be good for that. These days with all the battery tools that are available and as good as they are, whether they're Bauer or others, Harbor Freight also has their premium line. But I think all of those tools, you almost don't need a big giant air compressor. I remember one of the first shops I ever worked in, we had 2 big giant air compressors. They were huge. And I think the second place I went to work, we had a good size air compressor that was tucked in a closet, so it wasn't quite as noisy, but the sound of an air compressor running. One of them we had was so old it was actually water cooled, so it had water that ran around it, which also made it fairly quiet. But still, these were big, huge air compressors because everything back then ran on air. Air was there for the lifts. Air was there for all the tools. Air was there for all the tire inflators. Today, battery tools. If you have a battery, half-inch impact gun, battery 3/8 impact gun, battery ratchet, almost don't need an air compressor. Sure you do, because it's always handy to have one to air up a tire, something like that. But, some good battery tools. You can have a little small air compressor for just blowing stuff off and doing things. It's amazing what a small you can use an air chisel with a small air compressor, because you're not using a lot of air at one time. An air ratchet requires a decent sized compressor. A 1/2-inch impact gun. You can get by with it as long as you kind of let it rest in between, but things that spin, air ratchets spin a lot, sanders, buffers, things, you can't run those on small compressors. But these battery tools, like this Bauer one from Harbor Freight, does a good job. I think it's, if you're somebody who reaches for an air ratchet once in a while, and you're like, I'm tired of dragging out my compressor, I'm trying to work out in the garage or in the basement at night, and I don't want to have the compressor running and disturb the rest of the house, this battery one can do a pretty good job. It's quiet, does its job. Again, you're not going to use it for, if you have really rusted nuts and bolts you're dealing with, it's not going to work for it. Really tight, clearances, it's a little tight for that, because it is a relatively long handle, which gives you the leverage to loosen stuff up. Again, what I like about it, good trigger control, operates smoothly. If you're already on that 20-volt platform, you're good to go. And it's usable as a manual ratchet. A little awkward, but usable. It's not compact as compared to some of the 12-volt ones, and limited torque. But again, I don't want high torque ratchets. So serious do-it-yourselfers, yeah, it's a good choice. That extra one in the shop, it's a good choice. Will it replace the professional grade tools? Not every day, but if you're somebody who reaches for a cordless ratchet or an air ratchet sometimes, I think this would be a good choice. As long as you understand its limits and use it right, I think it delivers more than enough performance. And for the price, I think it was, like I said, I think about $60 without the battery. But if you're already on the platform, it makes it really easy. So there we go. There's a review of our 20-volt 3/8 drive cordless ratchet from Harbor Freight, the Bauer line. And there you go. Why don't we take another break, pay some bills? My name is John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program on this Easter Sunday, where we're live. Join us at 781-837-4900. We'll be right back.
Even car geeks and do-it-yourselfers rely on AAA to give them extra peace of mind on the road. AAA offers 24/7 roadside assistance, whether you're in your own vehicle, a friend's car, or even a rental. Combine that with great rates on insurance, hotel, gas, and dining savings, and discounts on 8,700 brands, and you're covered on and off the road. Get a special membership offer today at aaa.com/join. That's aaa.com/join.
This is my time. Hey guys, it's Lexi James.
And we're Crier Creek.
Twilight Showcase Radio, hosted by Sandy Stride and Keith James.
Tune into Twilight Showcase Radio Sundays on 95.9 WATD and 95.9 WATD.com.
Search for Twilight Showcase on Facebook.
And visit twilightshowcase.org.
Twilight Showcase, tonight from 8 to 10 on 95.9 WATD. Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. Next week, we were supposed to be talking to Lauren Stoney, and she's an influencer, and she does some work for Pennzoil. And she was going to talk to us about car care stuff. Apparently she had more stuff to influence, so she canceled. But I'm also working with not Harbor Freight, because it's a completely separate thing, but it's Harbor Freight Tools for Schools. And I want to talk to them because if you're a school teacher, a school teacher, VOTEC teacher, whatever the case is, you have the opportunity to write up kind of a summary of what you do, and it's a little intensive. It can take you a couple hours. It can take you more time than that. I've heard people say it takes 30 hours, but you have a chance. They're giving away some serious money. And what's interesting about it is part of it goes to the, and I want to say it's $100,000. They're giving away $500,000, and $70,000 goes to the school, and $30,000 goes to the instructor. So personally, the instructor gets like $30,000. But it's called Harbor Freight Tools for Schools. It's a charity. Eric Schmidt, who founded Harbor Freight, it's his charity. So it's completely separate from Harbor Freight. So it's has the same name, but it's a completely separate entity. But you have till I think the middle of May or the beginning of May to send your application in. But if you have a chance to get $100,000 or schools or tool scholarships or something, pretty good. So we have that coming up. We're trying to put that together for next week. The week after, we're talking to Michael Parsons. He's the guy from Source One Financial. He's the one who tries to help people when their vehicles get totaled to be able to get the maximum amount for the vehicle. So we have him coming up. This is a little bit of an odd one, and it isn't completely confirmed yet, but we're talking sunglasses the beginning of May. And somebody said, "What are you talking sunglasses?" I'm like, "Have you ever driven in the sun? Spend time outdoors in the sun? Your vision's so key to everything you do. Having a good pair of sunglasses." And I have a pair of Oakleys that I've had for years now. I also have a pair of Ray-Bans that I remember I must have bought them 35 years ago. They're aviators, which have come and gone out of style over the years. And I remember buying them at, I think it was BJ's or something. My wife yelled at me for spending $20 for sunglasses. I still have them. These sunglasses are... they're Hobie, the same people that make like water sports stuff. And one pair they're actually made from like recycled kayaks, which I just kind of thought was kind of neat. I thought it was a little interesting story there. But, as I get older, to me, it seems more important to have decent sunglasses. When I didn't buy these ultra expensive Ray-Bans, that I spent, $20 for, or the Oakleys, which I think I found them floating in the water. I'll have to think about that a little bit more. But I ended up replacing the lenses. But anyway, so I had them. Let's see if we can go real quick to Tom in Kingston. At least wish Tom a happy Easter. Tom, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Easter to you.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes left.
A couple weeks ago, there was too many Toms calling in at that time.
I know. Got all confusing.
I guess I'm in a little dilemma now. What do I do with the quart of Marvel Mystery Oil? I can't put it in my gas tank anymore.
Just do it a little at a time. Put it in the engine. No, you can still add it. I mean, it's a lubricant, so I wouldn't add a whole quart of it all at once. I'd add a little bit at a time. I think you'll be fine.
Does it do anything?
It's a lubricant and a cleaner, so it doesn't hurt.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Marvel Mystery Oil, we always joke about it. It's a mystery. Nobody knows what's in it. When you look what's in it, there's a little bit of kerosene, a little bit of like paint thinner sort of stuff, a little bit of oil, bunch of little parts.
A little
and pieces.
dab will do you.
Yeah. But I still have some for just a plain. I have some in an old-fashioned oil can that I use for stuff when I want actual real oil. I mean, I like. I had to take apart a lock yesterday, and I was looking for like real oil because I wanted to keep this thing lubricated. And WD-40 evaporates, so you can't use that. WD-40 is great for a lot of things. It doesn't work good for locks. It doesn't work good for cleaning linkage.
Just quickly,
sometimes.
What about a lawnmower? If you have 2 gallons of gasoline that's used on your lawnmower, could you put a dab of that stuff in there?
Can't hurt.
Listen, enjoy the weekend.
All right. Thanks,
Happy
Tom.
Easter for you.
All right.
You
You too. Bye-bye. I'm, I believe in using a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil. I like it. I think it's a good product. I use it. The few air tools I have left, I use it for that. Lubricates good. Good product. Hey, Jesse, happy Easter.
Happy Easter, my friend.
All right. For all of you out there, happy Easter, happy Passover. Until next week, make sure you wear your seatbelt, drive safely, be good to your car, and if you do see an emergency vehicle by the side of the road, slow down or move over. It saves lives. Talk to y'all next week. Bye-bye.